Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
I was halfway through a lukewarm turkey sandwich when I made the mistake of checking Instagram. A small break, I told myself, just a scroll to break up the dull hum of spreadsheets and pending emails. But the moment I tapped the app open, the world around me stilled. My feed refreshed, and there she was, Brielle. My wife. My wife of 6 years, stretched out like a magazine model in a private cabana somewhere so blindingly blue it could only be Bora Bora. Her legs crossed lazily over a white towel, a sonnet tilted just enough to make it look candid, like paradise was casual for her. The caption made it worse. We all deserve paradise. Especially with the right man, kiss mark dot. I blinked. Once. Twice. Then again. The man beside her, shirtless, smug, sipping what looked like a mimosa, was definitely not me. And it wasn't just the picture that made my stomach twist. It was the look on her face. I'd seen that smile before. It was the one she used to wear when she wanted me to forget an argument or when she needed money for something urgent but fun. I froze, phone hovering above my desk. The bite of sandwich sat dry on my tongue, unfinished. I opened my banking app with a speed I didn't know I had. Fingers trembling. Passcode entered. Balance loaded. My pulse kicked up when I saw the red alert at the top. High spending alert. $17,402 in 4 days. For days? I tapped into the details. First-class flights. Multiple charges from the Azure Reef Resort. Overwater villas. Champagne packages. Spa services. Candlelit dinners. And all of it on the emergency credit card I'd given her last year when her mom got sick. At least, that's what she told me. I'd never canceled it, just in case. And now that blind trust was funding her vacation with another man. I didn't even realize I was gripping the phone hard until the plastic creaked in my hand. The rage wasn't loud. It was cold. Slow burning. It wasn't just betrayal, it was the audacity. She didn't think I'd notice. She believed I'd stay at my desk like always, being the quiet, reliable Caleb Monroe who worked hard, paid bills, and didn't ask questions. The guy who was too dull to be a threat. My phone buzzed, and I looked down at the screen. A new message. From Brielle. You're rich enough, Caleb. Just dull to be with. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just a final twist of the knife, like my stability was a character flaw. The air left my lungs like I'd been punched in the gut. I leaned back in my office chair, the ceiling lights suddenly too bright. Around me, the office buzzed on like normal. Phones ringing. Printers humming. Conversations floating through cubicles. But it felt like I was underwater. Tarek, my cubicle neighbor and closest thing to a friend at this job, leaned over the divider and raised an eyebrow. Yo, you good, man? You look like you just got hit by a bus. I didn't say anything. Just turned the phone screen toward him. He stared for a second. Blinked. Is that your wife? And who's the dude? I swallowed the sour taste rising in my throat. Logan, I said, the name bitter in my mouth. That's Logan Vale. The guy she said was just a friend from her gym. Tarek whistled low. Damn. And she used her card. I nodded. Over 17 grand. First-class Bora Bora getaway. Courtesy of me. He looked like he didn't know what to say. Neither did I. Because what do you say when the life you built gets repackaged as someone else's reward? When your loyalty funds someone else's escape? I sat there for another long minute, letting the weight of it all settle. The betrayal. The gall. The emptiness that came not from the money lost, but from the realization that the person I trusted most had turned me into a walking wallet. A placeholder husband. The boring guy who wouldn't make a scene. Well, guess what? That guy didn't exist anymore. I stood up, slid my phone into my pocket, and tossed the sandwich into the trash. No appetite left. My mind was already moving, not to tears, not to begging for an explanation, but to numbers, to accounts, to actions. They wanted paradise? Let's see how they do when the fantasy stops funding itself. Didn't pause. I didn't flinch. The moment I returned to my desk, I opened the bank app again and scrolled down to the card settings. My thumb hovered over the red button marked Cancel Card. One tap. Confirm. Done. Just like that, their little island fantasy lost its golden key. I imagined them lounging by the pool, sipping overpriced cocktails, completely unaware that the well had just run dry. The card wasn't the only thing I was pulling. I opened my work contacts and scrolled until I found Reese Carver, one of the fraud investigators I'd worked with for years when I was managing risk analytics at the bank. He owed me a favor. Probably two. I hit call. He picked up after one ring. Caleb? Long time, man. What's going on? I need to file a fraud claim, I said, keeping my voice flat and professional, though my heart pounded in my chest. 17 grand. Charges from Azure Reef Resort. Bora Bora. There was a pause. That's a hell of a vacation. It wasn't mine, I said. It was my wife's. With another man. She used the emergency card I issued last year. I didn't authorize a single charge. Another pause. Then Reese's tone shifted, sharpening. Understood. You want me to flag all current and future charges? Yes, I said. Flag it. Escalate it. Go federal if you have to. I don't want them spending another dollar under my name. You sure you want this on record? He asked quietly. This becomes a legal trail. If she tries to talk her way out of it later, this makes it harder. I stared at the desktop monitor in front of me, its soft glow reflecting in the dead space of my reflection. Yeah, I said after a long breath. I'm sure. Okay, he replied. I'll file a misuse report and lock down the account. Once that's done, we'll send you an affidavit. You'll need to sign and return it to move forward with pressing charges. Do it, I said, and send it fast. Once I hung up, I didn't stop. I opened my email, created a new message, and typed in the contact details of the Azure Reef Resort. I'd researched them before booking our 5th anniversary trip last year, back when I still thought we had a future. I still had their general manager's contact saved from that trip, Pascal Laurent. I started typing. Subject: fraudulent charges at Azure Reef Resort. To whom it may concern. My name is Caleb Monroe. I am the legal cardholder of the American West Platinum card ending in 1098. Your resort has recently charged my account for over $17,000 in unauthorized expenses. The card has been canceled, and all activity is being investigated for misuse. I did not approve these transactions, nor did I give permission for the guests, Betrayal Monroe and Logan Vale, to use this card. Attached are screenshots of the charges, a photo of the canceled card, and their names as listed on your guest check-in records. Logan Vale is not a family member, nor an authorized user. I've also attached the address they submitted during check-in and the dates of stay. I am requesting immediate cooperation with your billing department. This situation involves potential identity theft and is now being handled by financial fraud authorities. Respectfully, Caleb Monroe. I clicked send. Then I leaned back in my chair and exhaled slowly. It was amazing how much clarity came with action. Not yelling, not begging, just steps. Deliberate, focused. My phone vibrated 10 minutes later. Email. From Lucien Durand, Operations Manager, Azure Reef Resort. Mr. Monroe. We've received your report and supporting documentation. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We've already had a payment issued today regarding the same guests. The credit card on file failed authorization this morning. We've paused all additional services and charges until resolved. Kindly advise how you wish to proceed. I replied without hesitation. Expect more issues. That card is permanently disabled. The charges were unauthorized. The guests are fully aware they do not have permission to use it. If they attempt to continue billing, I recommend you notify local authorities. You'll find their stay was based on false pretenses. Lucien responded swiftly. Understood. We'll be initiating formal billing verification and discussing next steps with legal. Thank you again, Mr. Monroe. I stared at the last line. We've already had a payment issue today. That meant they knew. Or were just starting to find out. I imagined Brielle's face when her room service breakfast was declined. When her spa facial got paused. When the staff pulled her aside with awkward smiles and hushed tones. The man she called the right one would be standing beside her. Logan Vale, whose only contribution to their fantasy was apparently a shirtless Instagram presence and a rapidly growing list of unpaid tabs. Let them sweat. Let paradise go sour. Because I wasn't the one who ran. They were. And now, they didn't know the card was dead. My phone exploded around midnight. It started with a message from Brielle, short and sharp, no greeting, no remorse. Why the hell isn't the card working? I stared at the screen in the dark, lit only by that furious bubble of text. No apology. No regret. Just outrage that her fantasy vacation had hit a financial wall. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Less than 2 minutes later, Logan followed up with his own brand of entitled idiocy. Fix this now, or I'm calling my lawyer. I actually laughed. Out loud. In the silence of my bedroom, I laughed so hard it startled me. Logan Vale hadn't held a steady job in years, unless you count personal training gigs he flaked on and pyramid schemes he pushed through social media. The man didn't even have a real resume. A lawyer? Please. The only courtroom he'd seen was on Netflix. I dropped the phone on the nightstand and rolled over, the buzz of it still echoing through the room. But I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The adrenaline was still riding high, a strange cocktail of anger and control, of heartbreak and justice. It was the first time in months I wasn't the one trying to keep things peaceful. I wasn't the one smoothing the tension with, "It's okay, we'll figure it out." I was letting them fall, and I wasn't reaching out. By morning, the fallout had escalated. 17 missed calls, 2 voice messages, a handful of Instagram DMs from people I didn't even know. And one voice message stood out, the hotel manager's thick French accent, tight with frustration. "Mr. Monroe, we have a situation. The guests associated with your account are, how do you say, very upset. The card is no longer working. They are requesting alternative arrangements. We require a direct confirmation from you before allowing further charges." I deleted the voicemail with a smirk. They were unraveling, and the strings were visible to the world now. Then came the real gem, an Instagram story. Betrayal, wearing a silk robe that I had paid for, because of course she packed luxuries bought on my dime, was sitting on a patio overlooking the water. No filters this time. No smiles. Her caption? #BoreBroke. Just that. A bitter joke masquerading as sarcasm. But the cracks were showing. Her usual sparkle had dulled. The comments beneath it came fast and ruthless. At Leolux, didn't you say your husband was boring? Looks like he's smart too. At its Jackie, this is what happens when you flex with someone else's card. At Valk_, is that the same Logan from FitFam Fail? LMAO. I watched it all unfold with the detached calm of someone finally stepping out of a storm shelter after years of holding the door shut. There was something satisfying, no, liberating, about watching their lie implode in real time. I arrived at work earlier than usual. My tie was straight, my stride steady. Tarek noticed it right away. "Man, you've got a whole different energy today." I slid into my chair. "That's what freedom feels like." He nodded slowly, watching me for a moment. "You really did it, huh? Shut the whole thing down." They thought I'd sit back and just take it, I said. Let them spend my money, steal my name, post their fake paradise while I paid the bill. But I'm done being the quiet one. Tarek grinned. "You're not quiet anymore." Before I could even pull up my inbox, another ping hit my phone. This one from Logan. "We're stuck in the lobby. They're saying they'll call the cops. Fix this, man. This is crazy. Fix this." Like I was the problem. Like I had broken their little house of cards. Like I was the villain for removing my hand from the flame they lit. I didn't respond. But I did open my camera roll and screenshot the text. Documentation. Every little piece was part of the puzzle now. Because it wasn't just about emotional betrayal anymore. It was financial, it was legal, and it was loud. And they were the ones screaming. I took another sip of coffee and pulled up the live feed of Brielle's Instagram. She deleted the #BoreBroke story. Too late. It had been reposted, stitched, memed. People were already sharing the clip of Logan demanding a room that respects who I am. One guest at the resort had uploaded a video, Logan shouting at a hotel staffer in swim trunks while Brielle begged for discretion behind him. The caption? "Imagine thinking you were living the dream, only to find out daddy's wallet got revoked." It was brutal, but it was true. They had built an illusion and invited the world to watch, forgetting that the world also loves to watch things burn. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel anything. Because this wasn't revenge. This was release. And for the first time in a long, long time, I wasn't the one apologizing for it. I walked into the office that morning like it was any other Tuesday. Same elevator ride, same ding at the 12th floor, same receptionist with her forced half-smile and lukewarm coffee in hand. But something inside me had shifted. Something fundamental. I wasn't dragging the weight of silence behind me anymore. No, I was lighter, sharper, like a man who had finally stopped lying to himself. My coworkers barely looked up as I passed, and that suited me fine. They didn't know what was unfolding, didn't know that while they were scrolling LinkedIn and managing spreadsheets, I was watching a personal revolution unfold, publicly, messily, and with a quiet vengeance I'd never thought myself capable of. I sat at my desk, logged in, and checked my inbox. First email was from Reese. Subject: fraud case, flagged and clean. Morning, Caleb. Just a heads up. Everything's officially flagged. Transactions frozen. Fraud case active under identity misuse. You're protected. Any new attempts to charge will bounce and trigger alerts. Let me know if you want to push this federal. I didn't even have to think about it. I hit reply. Already did. Let it escalate. If they keep pressing, I want full prosecution on the table. Reese replied within minutes. Copy that. We'll start compiling documentation for federal review. Stay frosty. I sat back, letting that phrase roll through me. Stay frosty. I liked the sound of that. Not because I felt cold, but because I'd stopped burning. By mid-morning, I received another email. This one from Azure Reef Resort. Lucien, the operations manager, had taken over the case. Mr. Monroe, as per your request, the guests in question have been notified of the payment issue and the account irregularities. They are not pleased. However, the local police have been informed in anticipation of possible non-payment. We will proceed according to protocol. Should you wish to provide any additional documentation, please forward it to my direct line. I typed my response carefully. Lucien, feel free to do whatever is necessary. If the authorities need contact info, legal proof, or financial records, I'll supply them. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was theft, and they knew it. She replied within the hour. Understood. We've dealt with situations like this before, but rarely with such arrogance. I almost smiled. That was Brielle's gift, after all. Arrogance dressed as charm. She perfected it over the years, smiling just wide enough to distract, laughing just long enough to disarm. I saw it the first year we were married, but I mistook it for ambition. For fire. I didn't know it was a smokescreen. While the fraud claims and chargebacks marched forward, I checked her social media again. Not because I missed her, but because I knew the game she played, and I wanted to see how well she was still playing it. Brielle's grid was still curated, sunsets, wine glasses, expensive swimsuits, all pretending nothing was wrong. But the comments were chaos. At Truth and Heels, didn't you brag about your husband being loaded? Girl, you used his card. At RealPearl_, isn't this fraud? At Casey from Brooklyn, paradise on someone else's dime. Bold. At Connor.talks, Loganvale? That the same guy who got kicked from Fit Camp for ghosting clients. I watched as she tried to hold the illusion together. She responded to a few with cryptic emojis. Then deleted a handful. Then turned off comments entirely. But it was too late. The truth had already leaked out. And once the internet sinks its teeth in, no glossy filter can clean the blood. I got a text from Jeanette, her mother, around noon. Jeanette, they're saying you canceled the card out of spite. Brielle is devastated. I stared at the screen. The audacity of it. Still playing the victim card. Still spinning the narrative like I was the villain. I called her. Jeanette picked up on the first ring. Caleb, thank God. You want the truth? I cut in. Voice even. Your daughter and her boyfriend committed credit card fraud. That card wasn't a gift. It was for emergencies. They lied about who they were. They lied to a luxury resort. They told the front desk they were married. Silence. A long pause, like the gears were finally clicking into place. She told us, you were separated. That you knew. That you gave her the card to move on. I let out a short breath. She lied, Jeanette. Like she's been lying for years. Another pause. Then, quietly, oh my God. I didn't stay on the line. I ended the call and left her to absorb the truth. Let her figure out how to fit that into the story Brielle had been feeding them. The rest of the day passed quietly. I worked. I answered emails. I stayed late, not because I needed to, but because I could. Because for once, the chaos wasn't in my home, in my texts, in my bones. It was theirs. Their fantasy was unraveling. My reality? It was finally mine again. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee at work when the video hit TikTok. At first, I didn't recognize the guy screaming at the resort staff. His hair was wet, his face red and twisted in rage. But the voice? The voice was unmistakable. Loganvale. He stood in the middle of a luxury spa, wearing nothing but a robe and a scowl, shouting like someone had just repossessed his yacht. And technically, something had been repossessed, my credit card, and with it, their fantasy. You're treating us like criminals, he shouted, gesturing wildly at the spa manager, who stood calm and unfazed. Do you know who I am? A woman filming off-screen replied before the manager could. Didn't you steal someone's card? The internet didn't miss that one. Within 2 hours, the clip had over 800,000 views and counting. I watched it from my desk, sipping coffee like it was a fine wine. The comments section was vicious. At Karma Club, you know you messed up when strangers in Bora Bora are exposing you. At Drama Logic, plot twist, The boring husband had receipts. At Broken Paradise, this is what happens when your man is a leech and your ex is a genius. I didn't post. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. The truth was out, and it had teeth. It was doing what truth always does when it's been bottled too long, spilling over, loud and sharp. By lunchtime, my phone buzzed. It was Jeanette again. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. "Caleb," she said immediately, no greeting. "I saw the video." And she hesitated. "They're saying you planned this. That you're making Betrayal and Logan look bad on purpose. That you sent the video to the press." I laughed, short and bitter. "I don't need to do anything. Logan did it all by himself. The man walked into a 5-star spa and screamed like a toddler. That was all him. But the public loves drama," I said, cutting her off. "But more than that, they love justice. And this isn't just drama, Jeanette. It's fraud. They committed a crime. She said you were controlling, that you were always monitoring her." I felt my jaw clench, but my voice stayed calm. "Did she also say she used my name to upgrade their flights? That she impersonated me when the resort asked for confirmation? That she told the hotel staff they were married, so she could avoid suspicion?" Silence. "She told you whatever made her look better," I said quietly. "But now, there's video. There are receipts. And she can't hide behind a ring light anymore." Jeanette's voice cracked. "I don't know who she is anymore." I didn't either. Or maybe I finally did. That afternoon, Reese called. "You've got mail," he said. "Not physical, digital. Another video. Guest at the hotel sent it to the resort manager, who forwarded it to us. You'll want to see this." He sent the file over. I opened it, half expecting more Logan rage. Instead, it was Betrayal, sitting on the edge of the hotel bed, whispering into the phone. The guest had filmed from the adjacent balcony, sound faint but clear. "I don't care what he saw online," she was saying. "He's always watching, always checking. I don't know how he figured it out." A pause. Then she added, "Well, I used his name because I had to, okay? He never would have let me go if I asked." This was the only way. Lie after lie. A rewrite of reality, so twisted I barely recognized the person speaking. The only thing worse than hearing it was realizing she believed it. Or needed to. Later that evening, I received a call from Lucienne at the resort. They were escorted out of the spa earlier, she said, matter-of-factly. Mr. Vale caused a scene. Security was involved. "I saw the video," I said. Lucienne chuckled softly. "Yes, well, it seems justice in the age of social media is quite efficient." "Did they pay anything yet?" "Not a dime," she said. "They insisted the charges were authorized, even after we showed them the fraud report. Mr. Vale threatened to call his lawyer." I smirked. "Let me guess. Harvard-trained and completely imaginary." She laughed. "Something like that." The call ended shortly after. I leaned back on my couch, the TV flickering in the background, my phone lighting up with new notifications every few minutes. This wasn't how I thought my marriage would end. Plastered across social media, dissected by strangers, turned into content. But maybe it was fitting. Betrayal always needed an audience. And now she had one. Only this time, they weren't clapping. They were pointing. And Logan? Logan was spiraling. The man who walked into paradise like he belonged there had been reduced to a meme. His breakdown, his tantrum, his threats, they were viral. The caption on the most shared clip? "When you spend someone else's money and forget there's a receipt." And I had all of them. My phone rang at 7:42 a.m. I hadn't even brushed my teeth yet. The name on the screen said it all, Reese Carver. I answered without thinking. "Yeah." His voice was chipper in a way that immediately told me something had gone sideways, but not for me. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "I'm listening," I replied, already walking to my desk, grabbing the notepad I'd started keeping since all this began. "So, I pulled a deeper audit on the emergency card, just in case we missed anything in the initial review. You gave her access last year, right?" I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "Yeah, October. Said her mom was sick." He gave a low whistle. "Well, turns out this wasn't the first time she used it for unauthorized travel. We found 3 other trips. All local, but luxury. Aspen, Sedona, and the Hamptons." I sat down slowly. What the hell? She told the hotel staff in Aspen she was on a corporate retreat. "Used your name to check in." My jaw tightened. "She used the same alias every time," he continued. "Mrs. Caleb Monroe." "And for flights?" "Yeah, she upgraded Logan on 2 of them, billing the cost under your name. We have copies." The Sedona Hotel even had her signature on file. That was it. That was the moment something inside me stopped bending. Stopped hoping for apologies or explanations. This wasn't just one betrayal. It was a series. Calculated. Concealed. Casually carried out like I was never supposed to notice. "Reese," I said, my voice low and steady. "I want it escalated. Push it federal. Identity theft. Financial fraud. All of it." There was a pause. Then, "You sure? This could mean jail time for her, Caleb." I looked out the window. The sun had just cracked over the city skyline, golden and unbothered by human messes. "I didn't put her in this position," I said quietly. "She did. I'm just making sure she doesn't drag me down with her." "Understood," Reese replied. "We've got enough now to make the charges stick. I'll send the final package to the feds today." I hung up and just sat there for a moment, staring at the stillness outside. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. But it was mine. Untouched by her perfume, her constant humming while she curled her hair, the clatter of her bracelets when she reached for the wine glasses. For the first time in 6 years, I could hear myself think. And what I thought was, you were her collateral. Not her partner. Not her equal. Just a means to an end. A paycheck and a tailored suit. And now? Now she was on the verge of wearing handcuffs because she couldn't imagine a life where she didn't get what she wanted on someone else's dime. By lunchtime, it had already started making the rounds. A finance blogger I followed shared an article, "Influencer Couple Accused of Luxury Credit Card Fraud in Bora Bora Scandal." The article didn't name me directly, but it didn't need to. It had the dates, the location, the hotel. And within hours, the connections were made. Another TikTok popped up. A breakdown video. A guy in a hoodie narrating while showing screenshots of Brielle's Instagram posts and the hotel footage side by side. She said she was with the right man. Turns out, the boring husband paid for the whole trip. And now? The card's canceled. The boyfriend's a meme. And the police? Yeah, they're involved. The comments were brutal. At Marcy Whispers, this is identity theft. Like, actual federal crime. Not just cheating. At Gents Detectives, did y'all catch she used his last name at the resort? At Finance D, shout out to Caleb. The quiet ones always come with receipts. It was surreal. Watching strangers defend me. Watching people I'd never met tear apart the woman I once thought I'd grow old with. But I didn't feel the triumph I expected. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt done. Around 4 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Jeanette. I answered out of sheer curiosity. She used her name to book flights? Her voice was thick with disbelief, maybe even guilt. That's what the investigator said. She did, I replied. More than once. It's identity theft now, Jeanette. This isn't just bad behavior, it's a felony. There was a long pause. She said she was unhappy, she offered, weakly. That you didn't pay her attention. That you were always working. I leaned back in my chair. And she told you that made it okay to drain my accounts? To impersonate me? To take another man to paradise with my money? She didn't answer. She couldn't. I didn't stop working, I added, because I didn't love her. I worked so she could live the life she posted about. More silence. Then a soft sob. I'm sorry, Caleb. I really didn't know. Now you do, I said, and hung up. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was clear. And that clarity? It felt better than love ever had. She showed up at my condo 2 days after the resort booted them. No call, no warning, just a sharp knock against the door like she still had keys, like she still belonged. I was sitting on the couch, reading through a report from Reese about the formal submission to federal authorities when I heard it. That distinct, impatient knock. I didn't move right away. I let it come again. 3 times. Harder the third. I opened the door. Brielle stood there, mascara smudged under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy knot that tried to say, I don't care, but screamed, I'm unraveling. She was wearing the same oversized cardigan she used to wear when she was sick or hungover, only now it hung heavier on her frame. The vacation glow was gone. Paradise had spit her out. You're seriously doing this? She asked. Her voice cracked at the edges, not quite anger, not quite desperation. You froze the card. You called the bank. You filed charges. I leaned against the doorframe, keeping the door halfway open. I already did, I said. You're not here to ask. You're here to plead. She blinked like I'd slapped her. You're being cruel. Cruel. I laughed, not bitter, just exhausted. You maxed out a card meant for emergencies. Took a man to Bora Bora on my money. Lied to a resort. Used my name to upgrade flights. That's not a mistake, Brielle. That's fraud. Her eyes flickered, and for a second, I saw the old performance, lips parting, chin trembling, like she was about to cry. But it didn't land like it used to. There was no sympathy left. Not here. They're going to charge me, she whispered, almost to herself. Logan says we can fight it. But you charged me first, I said, voice low. $17,000. And my dignity. She looked down, as if maybe the floor held better answers. I was unhappy, she said. You were cold, predictable. Everything felt safe and boring. I tilted my head. And you thought stealing from me would make things exciting? She didn't respond. Behind her, parked on the curb, was a battered black Jeep. Logan was slouched in the passenger seat, hood pulled up, sunglasses on, arms crossed like a child pouting in timeout. He didn't look at me. Coward. Go back to the car, I said, stepping away. Tell your boyfriend the resort sent the full bill to the authorities. They're naming both of you in the case. And I'm cooperating. You're really going to let me get arrested? She asked, voice rising. After everything? After everything, I said. You earned it. Then I closed the door. I didn't slam it. Didn't lock it dramatically. Just turned the knob until it clicked, then walked away. Not 10 minutes later, my phone lit up. Logan. At Loganvale_official just posted a new video. I clicked on it, not even surprised. He was sitting in his Jeep, the same hoodie from earlier still on, eyes wide, holding his phone like it owed him something. This is for the people who think they know everything, he began. Caleb Monroe is a narcissist. He manipulated Brielle for years, controlled her money, tracked her every move. We went on that trip to escape him. He paused for dramatic effect. He's making us look like criminals. But the real criminal is the man who holds his wife hostage with fear and guilt. I blinked slowly, stunned by the sheer performance of it all. The comments, though, were merciless. At actual facts. Bro, you used his card. Edit some? This you? Insert screenshot of Borabroke caption. At Detective Soft TikTok, someone get this man an Oscar for worst actor in a reality implosion. At Receipt Ser Forever, he didn't control you. He cut you off. There's a difference. I watched as his video was stitched, mocked, memed. One girl edited the clip and overlaid text, POV, when the vacation ends and reality hits like the check you didn't pay. It was glorious. Not because I was vindictive, but because for once, I wasn't the one stuck explaining myself. I didn't need to defend my silence, my steadiness, my refusal to play the public pity game. They were exposing themselves, day by day, post by post. That night, I had dinner alone, candlelit, a glass of wine, my own playlist humming in the background. And for the first time in years, the quiet didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. I toasted the air. To peace, I said aloud. And I meant it. Courtrooms don't look like they do in movies. There's no sweeping music, no dramatic lighting, no pounding of gavels every 5 seconds. There's sterile, gray walls, scuffed linoleum floors, uncomfortable chairs that squeak when you shift your weight. But the tension? That part's real. Thick. Palpable. Every breath feels borrowed, every silence laced with implication. I sat on the witness bench, wearing the same charcoal suit I wore to boardroom presentations, pressed, neutral, unfazed. Only this time, I wasn't closing a deal. I was closing a chapter. Brielle sat across the room, next to her court-appointed attorney. She looked smaller somehow, like the weight of her curated life had finally crushed her shoulders inward. Her tan had faded. Her signature lashes weren't glued in place. No makeup, no filters. Just Brielle. Raw. Exposed. Logan sat one row behind her, arms crossed, jaw clenched, avoiding my eyes like the coward he always was. This wasn't his show, though. Not anymore. The assistant district attorney, a young woman named Madeline Cross, stood before me with the calm precision of someone who had done this dozens of times. Mr. Monroe, can you walk us through how you became aware of the charges made on your account? I nodded once. Yes. It was the morning of August 3rd. I was on my lunch break and opened Instagram. I saw a photo of Brielle, my wife at the time, on vacation in Bora Bora. She was with another man. The caption suggested they were a couple. A rustle moved through the gallery, family members, reporters, maybe a curious TikToker or two. I continued. I checked my bank account and discovered over $17,000 charged to an emergency credit card I had given Brielle nearly a year prior. The card was meant for emergencies only. Medical expenses, car trouble, things like that. Madeline nodded. Did you authorize any of those charges? Not a single one. She turned to the judge. Your Honor, permission to display exhibits B through H? The judge, a tired-looking man in his 50s, barely glanced up. Granted. Screens lit up around the courtroom. A slideshow began, screenshot after screenshot of charges. Overwater bungalows. Champagne tastings. Spa packages. First-class upgrades. And finally, the video. Logan, screaming in a robe at the resort spa. We're being treated like criminals. A beat later, a woman off-screen. Didn't you steal someone's card? The silence that followed was absolute. Even Brielle's lawyer looked uncomfortable. Madeline spoke again, calm and measured. Mr. Monroe, did your wife, or her companion, Mr. Loganvale, have your permission to present themselves as Mr. and Mrs. Monroe? No, I said. They impersonated me. She used my name, my account, and my status to fund their trip. She told the hotel they were married so no one would question the charges. Thank you, she said. No further questions. Brielle's lawyer stood slowly. Middle-aged, balding, clearly handed this case last minute. Mr. Monroe, did you love your wife? I blinked. The question felt out of place. Yes, I said carefully. I did. And would you agree that relationships are complicated? Another murmur from the room. I leaned forward. Complicated isn't the same as criminal. He fumbled with his notes, flipping a few pages. Did you ever track her movements? Control her finances? Limit her access? No, I said. I gave her everything, including trust. She abused it. He hesitated, then sat down. It was over in minutes. The judge called a recess. And just like that, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and walked past Brielle without looking at her. But I felt her eyes. I felt the quiet desperation buried under her silence. Later that afternoon, I heard what I'd been waiting for. The plea deal had collapsed. Logan refused to admit guilt, insisted the card was a gift, that Brielle had told him it was hers to use. But Brielle? She panicked. The footage, the paper trail, the text messages, they shattered any defense she had. Word spread fast. Jeanette called, but I ignored it. Nothing left to say. Reese texted me later. DA says trial's likely unless they settle by Friday. Either way, you're clean. And that was it. I was clean. Free of the lies, the manipulation, the public performance that used to pass for love. That night, I sat alone in my condo, eating leftover Thai food, watching the lights of the city blink like quiet signals of life moving on. I thought about everything. About the man I used to be. The man who accepted being ignored, belittled, used, just to keep the peace. The man who thought staying quiet was the same as staying strong. But I wasn't him anymore. The courtroom wasn't a battle. It was a burial. And the version of me they betrayed? He didn't rise again. Fallout doesn't come with fireworks. It comes quietly. Like ash after a fire, settling in every corner, soft, inevitable, final. Brielle's world unraveled faster than I expected. The scandal didn't just stay in the courtroom or among bored internet sleuths, it spread. Like oil slick across a glass surface. Her sponsorships dried up within days. Brands she once flaunted on Instagram, skincare, fashion, even bottled water, started pulling back, one after another. Quiet statements, all saying the same thing without saying it directly. We no longer work with Brielle Monroe. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. But I watched it happen with the same stillness I used to watch her apply highlighter before an influencer event, lighting up her face like she was untouchable. I remembered how she used to rehearse captions like speeches, curated every word, every outfit, every smile. And now, the comments on her latest post weren't filled with fire emojis or hard eyes. They were reminders. At True Hurts 123, so you lied, stole, and called it paradise? At Rio Rosalie, you lost the bag and the man who paid for it. Congrats. At You See Him No, his silence was louder than your whole vacation. She tried disabling comments. Then she limited her audience. Then she deleted posts. But the internet has memory. Screenshots. Reposts. Threads. They stitched it all together, like a courtroom outside of the courtroom, and Brielle couldn't delete herself from that trial. Logan disappeared almost instantly. Deleted his accounts. Shut down his fitness coaching business, which never had a license or a real client to begin with. Rumor was he'd moved back in with his cousin in Florida. Someone posted a blurry photo of him at a gas station, same smug face, now dulled with defeat, hunched over a bag of chips. Jeanette called again. This time, she cried. They're talking about jail time, she whispered. Her lawyer says the case is strong. That the feds won't back down. I didn't respond right away. I was sitting in my new apartment, halfway through unpacking. I'd moved out of the condo Brielle and I once shared. Too many memories there. Too many echoes of her laughter, her footsteps, the click of wine glasses she never washed. I needed fresh air. New walls. I warned her, I finally said. I gave her more chances than she ever earned. She's still your wife, Jeanette said, like that title meant anything now. Not for long, I replied. The papers are signed. I'm just waiting on the judge. A pause. I failed her, Jeanette said softly. I let her believe there were no consequences. I didn't argue. Maybe because I agreed. Or maybe because I was just tired of absolving people who let her burn everything I gave. The next week, the final report from Reese came through. Clean and clear. All transactions reversed. My credit restored. My name free of association with the crimes. And in black and white, federal charges pending. Trial date to be set. It felt like closure. Like someone sealing an envelope I didn't have to open again. I started doing things I hadn't done in years. Sleeping in. Walking without headphones. Cooking dinner for one without feeling like it was a punishment. Peace has a sound. A silence that doesn't choke. That's how I knew I was healing. One night, I went to a jazz bar by myself. Ordered an old-fashioned. Sat in the back booth and let the brass notes wrap around me like smoke. A woman sat across the bar, book in one hand, glass of red wine in the other. She didn't look like an influencer. No selfies, no filters, no audience. She caught me looking once and smiled. Just a normal smile. Human. Honest. I didn't go talk to her. Not yet. I wasn't ready for that. But I held her gaze a second longer than I might have before. And that felt like something. Later, I checked my email. A new message. From Brielle Monroe. Subject, you win. No greeting. No apology. Just 3 lines. You always wanted to be right. Congrats. You were. I hope it makes you happy. It didn't. But I was at peace with that. I hovered over the message for a second. Then clicked delete. No screenshot. No reply. No reason to keep it. Because this wasn't about winning. This was about release. I had loved her once. Truly. Fiercely. Stupidly. I had built a life on that love. Paid for it. Fought for it. Almost lost myself in it. But now? Now I knew what freedom felt like. And it was quieter than I ever imagined. Freedom doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it shows up on a random Tuesday, in a quiet cabin at the edge of a forest, with no signal bars and the sound of wind brushing against pine trees. That's where I was, for months after everything, after the court hearings, the final fraud ruling, the divorce, the media circus. I'd packed a small duffel, left my phone on airplane mode, and taken a solo trip into the mountains. No one knew I was there. That was the point. The air was cold. Crisp. Honest. I sat on the porch with a mug of black coffee, watching the sun rise over a ridgeline that had nothing to do with social media, status, or betrayal. The earth didn't care who'd used my name or how many times my face had been tagged in someone else's downfall. Out here, I wasn't the boring husband or the man who got played. I was just Caleb Monroe, breathing, thinking, finally living. When the wind picked up, I went inside and tossed a few logs into the fire. I wasn't running away. I wasn't hiding. I was reclaiming silence, making it mine again. That used to be Brielle's biggest complaint, ironically. She used to say, "You're too quiet, Caleb. You never fill a room." What she didn't understand was that not all power comes from noise. Some of it comes from stillness, from restraint, from knowing when to speak and when to disappear. The night before the trip, I received one final letter. A real letter pen on paper, stamped and mailed to my new address. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity still lingers, even when love doesn't. It was from Brielle. No apology. No ownership. Just resentment masked as self-pity. "You always acted like silence made you better than everyone. But silence doesn't mean you're right. It means you're a coward. You let the world ruin me. You could have stopped it. You didn't have to go that far." I read it once. Then again. Not because it hurt, but because it reminded me just how far she still was from the truth. I didn't let the world ruin her. She handed it the matches. I simply stepped out of the way. I shredded the letter and threw the pieces into the fireplace. That night, I dreamed of nothing. Not of her. Not of him. Not of receipts, courtrooms, or luxury vacations paid for with my name. Just blackness. Peaceful and uninterrupted. When I came back to the city, things had changed. My office was different. People looked at me with something new in their eyes. Respect? Maybe. Or curiosity. Like they were realizing I was never the pushover they assumed. Even Tarek gave me this nod one afternoon in the break room like I'd come back from war. "You good?" he asked. "Better," I said. I meant it. I got promoted 2 weeks later. Senior Risk Director. New office, higher pay, more responsibility. The HR rep asked if I wanted a press release posted about the promotion. "No," I said. "I'd rather just get to work." It was the first time in a long time I wasn't performing for anyone, not even myself. One day, I opened my DMs. Not from curiosity, but routine. A woman I didn't know had messaged me. Her name was Alyssa. She wrote, "Your story helped me leave. I was in a 3-year relationship with someone who drained my savings, stole my ideas, and told me it was our life together. You reminded me that leaving isn't weak. It's survival. Thank you." I responded, briefly, "Just that you're stronger than you think. Keep going." But I thought about her all day. About how many people walk around quietly carrying their betrayal, waiting for permission to put it down. Maybe I didn't tell my story publicly, but somehow it still found its way out. I met someone 3 months after that. Her name was Elise. We met at a friend's game night. She didn't know who Betrayal was. Didn't ask about the trial. She talked about books and old music and had this way of laughing with her whole face, like joy wasn't a currency but a reflex. She didn't need me to fund anything. She paid for her own Uber, tipped the bartender without looking, and didn't care that I had once been married to a woman who made her living off lies. When I told her the short version, just the facts, no embellishments, she didn't flinch. "Well," she said, sipping her drink, "that's one hell of a lesson. But you're here now. That's what matters." I smiled. It was enough. We're not rushing anything. I don't want a replacement. I want peace. She seems to understand that. Sometimes I think back to the Instagram post that started it all, Betrayal, sprawled out in Bora Bora, captioned with a kiss emoji and a line about the right man. I think about the $17,000 she spent, the lawyer fees, the trial, the lost deals, the internet's verdict. Then I think about now, about Elise's hand in mine, about the fire I built myself in a cabin no one else knew about, about the letter I didn't need to respond to. She maxed out my credit card, but she bought me freedom, and that's a price I'll gladly let her pay.